Welcome everyone to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's well out there. Now today we're going to look at the next phases, at the next steps of this deep state war, of them getting us closer to war. What's the next phases? We want to look into this. We want to see what do we need to be prepared for. Now, this whole week has been loaded with all sorts of stuff. Now, the Biden, there's been a lot of wild images of Biden, of the resident Biden. The one was him, I guess it was Air Force One, and he had this crazy double chin, and it definitely looks like a mask. Definitely something is up. Degeneration of the bone structure occurs after prolonged use of, it's like more speculation, like who is this guy? He did another faux pas, or the Biden administration, his team put out an image of a special forces group and basically doxed these guys, which is like a massive faux pas, okay? And so you got to wonder, like, what's he doing? Now, we know this guy's captured. We know that he's a paid agent. We know he's a deep state bad actor. He's basically like giving the enemy, or what's being perceived as the enemy, intel. Are they being exposed right in front of our eyes? Yes, I think they are. I think that is part of it. I think this is what needs to happen. All of the protests, especially like the protests in Europe, major protest yesterday, I guess it was, in London, but there was all over where they've outlawed it, and it shows the division, right? It just shows like the purposely built division that's built into this, and creating a religious war is right in step with the whole agenda that these guys have. And it's terrible. It's terrible what's happening, but it's mostly like what's terrible, what the deep state, what these globalist, death cultist scumbags have been up to and what they've been doing. And that's they're the real enemy. They're the ones that are perpetuating the harm against humanity, right? And so, yeah, we have to keep keeping on in the best way that we can. But yet when we start to see everything played out, it starts to make sense. It's like I'm looking back going, how did I miss some of this stuff? And I think a lot of us are going through that. It's easier to look in the rearview mirror. It's easy to look at what has passed you by rather than what you're moving towards. Now, they've put us in society into this crash course with what we're seeing right now. And a lot of it has been implemented through the internet, through these screens that we interact, much like a windshield in a motor vehicle. That's where we have to kind of bring it back, calm it down, utilize those screens, but in a different way, not to accelerate their process, but to shift a gear so that we could get into our own momentum and move in our own direction, right? But yet bring it back, and in that way, we are going to restore peace. We are going to see justice and a lot of things that people have been hoping for. We have been seeing it in slow measures, right? But we're seeing it now, and we're going to see it in the future. There's some things that none of us, like for our lifetimes, may not be resolved. We have to accept that. I guess that's what has really been exposed to us, to the everyday people, how important we really are, how much of an impact we can have as individuals, in groups, and how that spills out into the world, and that has a greater effect. And so that's why it's so important to be in that sort of stilled and achieving peace where you can within your being and within your everyday life. Now, the whole thing, we've been warning people, and it's been building up and getting people to sort of be more attentive to their circumstances and their surroundings, what's around them, what's going on in their locality, and how do we take part, and how do we sort of affect a change in that way and to take part, right? And in many ways, it's more just like having an interaction with people. That's like a big thing, and just the open conversation, because people are like the everyday people have no idea what's going on for the most part, and people are definitely caught. So for many of us that were prepared for years, we know sort of not to. There's a certain part of this kind of information war, this propaganda campaign, that we don't want to be involved in. Kind of have to let the chips fly where they are. What we need to be putting out there is the true, like, information that shows people how we're being played on all sides, how the real war was started years ago and being perpetuated. And people are forgetting like what happened 3 years ago. So we have to kind of keep on that side of it and keep pushing that information if that's how we're going to be a part of the propaganda campaign. I mean, we're going to get through this. We're going to move through this, and we're going to see some amazing things happen, I think. And not the other way. Things are going to turn around. So let's take a look. Next steps, next phase. We just did a reading a couple of days ago, Breaking the Deep State Spell. So check that out when you're done with this one. If you haven't already, watch that video. And it's, kind of a continuation of, from there, I guess, in what came up with that reading. We definitely want to see like what's the next series of things that they've got planned, the deep state, these globalist death cultists, warmongers, and what do we need to be prepared for, and what can we do to offset some of it? And not only just for this week, because we'll do it for the week, but a little bit longer term, see what else comes up. If we only get sort of a message for the week, then that's fine. So let's see what comes up here. So past, present, future. Okay, and so the Eight of Wands, and it's kind of interesting that's like rockets firing almost, right? It kind of looks like that. This is an action. This is like moving forward, but this has been halted. Okay, and we saw this for this last, I guess, couple weeks or whatever, this last week, the halting of the ground invasion in Gaza. Okay, so that's kind of a big thing, because what they're expecting is that, and what Iran has threatened, is that they're gonna proclaim a global jihad and a war against Israel and all this stuff if they do that. So, and that's been halted, but yet there's a couple of different reasons actually. One of them is that they're actually like, the Israelis are kind of getting a little bit what they want. They're taking out a bit of this is kind of the card of victory, right? They're taking out some of the leadership and the command and control structure that's there, like via these tunnels and all this stuff that we see, right? That's they've kind of have done that, right? So that in a way doesn't justify them kind of invading, right? But that's part of it. It's sort of like they have to readjust the scenario, but also underneath the whole scene of it might be this money from the States. Things have to come together in order for the next part of it to come forward, right? There's been a lot of talk in the Muslim world, and like where they don't want to get involved in a war. And what we're seeing is like the sides of the world kind of being drawn apart. And so in a way, this could be a good thing, because this could create a peace accord of some sort. This could create like a complete stilling of that situation. Okay, but yet part of it is they're, well, let's just be like quite honest about it. Like, they don't have the people that they need inserted in the Western parts of the world that they want to implement a full-on, a staged rebellion, let's say, a staged insurrection. And that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to filter in and funnel in enough people, enough military-aged Muslim men into Western Christianized countries in order to start this kind of global jihad thing, because that's what they've got going. That's the thing that right, and that's the next step of it. And so what they want to see first is a series of riots, rebellions, all like via these protests, and kind of like this BLM style, and what we saw with the yellow vest stuff in France, and like the burning and the destruction in these cities. That's what they want to see first. And like, they do have, like, we saw it already, like there was this guy in Belgium, and he killed 2 people or something, and then there's ongoing this thing in Sweden with these barrios, these off no-go zones with these illegal immigrants. That's part of the next phase, is they want this to erupt. Problem is that it's not quite as inflammatory as they were expecting. The everyday people are so distrustful of this. I mean, people still watch the mainstream media, the legacy media, but yet they don't trust it. They don't trust what either side says. And so you get people, reporters, boots on the ground, talking on all areas, and both sides, especially people that are kind of like neutral, or, you know, they don't support terrorism, but they don't support violence either, are talking about like how we're being lied to. Both sides are lying. Like, there's something incredibly fishy, incredibly wrong about the entire circumstance of what has taken place. A few readings back, I talked about how a lot of what we've been experiencing for months and months and months they're like beta tests and little experiments to see how far they can push the population and what they can get away with. And like this thing of, you know, like leftists are classic for this. The communists were classic for this. The Nazis did this too. But basically utilizing their own frontline soldiers, and once they're done, executing them and utilizing them for their own sort of benefit. And that's what we saw. So we saw with this thing in Israel, the original attack. These people were being prepared. It was like a sacrifice. And that's what it is. It is this bizarre global sacrifice that we're witnessing, that these guys keep implementing. And so people have to kind of be able to sort of speak about this stuff. It can't be shut down, because that's what's taking place. And so when we see the fighting and the, like in the division, all that, that's one way to look at it. It's like, this is a black magic spell, like a dark side spell that's being cast on the entire globe, and that it's part of a massive ritual, and that we're not to take part in this at all. They need further justification to kind of escalate, but they don't have enough people in. Something has been sort of halted, right? So, I mean, the Patriot side of things are kind of, we keep picking up, like they're winning in some ways. Like their whole system is sort of in shambles, and that's why. So a couple of things, like money is a big factor with this thing with Israel right now. But regardless of what they say, I think if the money was already pumping through, the ground invasion might have already had started. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's really that important. I think the thing is that if it spreads, right? The thing spreads and multiple countries start to get in, but it's all constructed. It's all part of a constructed plan. And so really the attack is on the Western countries. That's a big part of it. They want to create this great reset scenario. Okay, what else? What else do we need to hear? Yeah, this guy here, right? The Nine of Wands. And there's a lot of political prisoners in jail in the United States, Canada, UK, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, Netherlands, France, Spain, Italy. Man, I keep naming people, part of the freedom movement, people that have been jailed wrongfully. And those same governments support terrorists and have supported the genocidal program the whole time. And that's, I mean, there might be some good news around that, around how these people are being wrongfully incarcerated, accused. I mean, there was some things with Trump's trial that might come out more. Like, apparently there's some really good news. Right, there's going to be some push. There is pushback. And this is saying, like, we're in this time where we got to get active. We got this, the tree, the hangman on the tree. It's funny. It's like the spiritual sacrifice that's needed in order to obtain spiritual wholeness and to fulfill the rebirth process. And once that is done, because when he's hanging up on the tree, he's holding the pose, right, of the 4 and the 3, of the material world being balanced on the apex of the spiritual pyramid, drawing up and seeking enlightenment, seeking awareness, right? And once he's done, he can walk, he can move forward. He knows the maneuver, he knows the way. And that's kind of where we're at. We're in this position, like, it's time. There is no waiting anymore. And we just have to we have to be able to move into the unknown, knowing that we can trust the truth within our being. And that's what is the most important thing. Okay, and like they're gonna totally shake us. It's funny, this card here, the Nine of Pentacles. And it's interesting, she actually is wearing a very similar robe to the Empress card, the major arcana, representing the goddess, representing the divine creative impulse, let's call it. And so with the money in this, and this is a card of independence in a lot of ways, and affluence and wealth. And this being flipped on its head is kind of this thing of, where does the money come from? Where is the money going? Who made a lot of money off of this? Who's going to make even more money in the near future? Like some of these people, some of these Democrats, some of these rhinos, a vast majority of them, making money off of the war industry, making money off of the big pharma, making money off of the climate tech, the climate change, making money off of surveillance technology, making money off of did I say big tech? Big tech investment, that kind of thing. Because the shift is happening. And these people, that's what they do. And that's what maybe comes out, is like how these guys, like how the heck, I mean, they were talking about this before. It's like, how did Nancy Pelosi make so much money? How did Obama make so much money? How did Joe Biden make so much money? Well, we know kind of how Joe Biden made a lot of money. He was paid off. And he was paid off by Ukraine, and he was paid off by Russia, and he was paid off by China, and he was paid off by Kazakhstan and Romania, and it goes on and on and on. The bad actors, these World Economic Forum, Davos, globalist, cultist, darksiders that are operating in these countries, that's who he got paid off by. And the network that's there, that's more exposure on that is coming out. That's what's going to help save us, help shift everything around is when this becomes more clear and present and in the light of day. And that's what we get with this Page of Cups. This is a good message. We're going to get the messages that we need. Us as the everyday people, in some ways, this is why, before COVID and everything, and the with the Q posts and the message boards and all this stuff, and a part of it was trust the plan. This is a movie. The reason why they were saying this wasn't so that we would stop and become inactive. It was to prepare us to recognize how these guys have engineered and scripted out this whole world circumstance so much that once it starts to sort of unravel, part of our job as, the screen of which it's being projected on is to bear witness and to communicate out in the world what we are witnessing. Now, all of the censorship that we went through in the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, I guess, since Trump, was for right now. It had everything to do with what's going on right now, because they are going to attempt to do the exact same thing and censor people that aren't speaking their narrative completely. And it's already starting to happen. But to bear witness and communicate and to express what we were witnessing, just that. There's a whole bunch of other things that people did, obviously, but that, all of us, that's what created this circumstance where now we're not being fully censored. We can still communicate. They aren't getting away with it. And the whole point was so that they could get away with a global war, a World War III. And because people are wise to much of this, they're not going to get away with it, right? So that's the thing. These cards here, this is not hiding away. It's time to kind of get out there. This isn't a rest time. This is an active time. And I picked up that energy before too, moving into the fall, where I could feel the energy kind of instead of kind of dipping down, picking up. And things becoming very, 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 very active, okay? Thing that we got to keep doing is activating the parts of our lives that benefit health, well-being, abundance, peace, love, all those things. That's what we need to really be active in, okay? The other stuff, like the political stuff and being sort of active on that front, that's part of it as well. Some of us maybe aren't being called there. That's fine, but it is about being active. We got to get out there and just keep communicating. That is what is going to turn the tide. That is what's going to prevent these guys from getting away with what they're attempting to. Okay, everybody, hope you enjoyed. That's enough for today. Now, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, like the video. Helps a ton. Wherever you are, please take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.